Hey, by the way, tonight's game, New York wins that outright.
You know he's on top. Million subs, he never gonna flop. Out of Chicago, where the streets don't sleep. Betting on games, making cash real deep. Crystal ball for sports, he knows the lines. He's a sports aficionado, the money he finds. From football to basketball, he's always on point. Predicting winners never disappoints. He's got that hustle, that Chicago vibe. Making moves on the streets, cash on the side. With E, you know it's always a bet. He's the king of the game, never forget.
Hello and welcome to the Etoft21sports Show for August 19th. How is everyone doing? My name is Erik. I'm the man behind Etoft21sports. Absolutely loaded episode for you today. My boy Justin from JustinPaulSports is going to come on. Him and I are going to talk about the NFC East. But before we get into all that, I would like to say thank you to the sponsor of the show, my friends over at ProphetX. If you're not using ProphetX, it's a peer-to-peer betting exchange. Guys, with what's going on in the sports betting industry, this peer-to-peer stuff is the future of sports betting. Go to the App Store, download the app, use promo code ETOFT21. That way they know old Uncle Rico sent you. Now let's go ahead and let's welcome this week's special guest. He co-hosts the All 22 Dynasty Fantasy Football Show with Bobby at Bobby's Big Board on social media. My boy, Justin. Justin, how you doing today, my man?
What's going on? How are you, brother?
I'm doing good, dude. You know what? Doing good.
Doing good. You ready to strap it in for some finally college football starts on Saturday? Praise the Lord. They got Farmageddon with Iowa State and Kansas State, and then they got a couple just minor matchups to kind of get the taste before you get the full buffet. And then it's college Labor Day weekend. I'll be here 2 weeks. It's going to be great. And then we just run through our football season. Can't wait. Jack.
I'm just happy to be done betting baseball. I mean, I'll be honest. I am just going to be fucking thrilled, excuse my language, to be done betting baseball.
Well, you know,
betting baseball is the hardest thing to do.
That's why I backed off it. You know, I was thinking about it, like my channel. I'm just going to stick to football and college basketball, because those are the sports that I enjoy to watch as well. So it makes it more fun for me to cap them. I mean, I know that real hardcore gamblers will just find lines on anything, whether it's women's basketball, tennis, baseball. And I enjoy baseball, but I don't enjoy betting on it. So I decided to back off it. I just said, you know, I'm just going to bet football and college hoops. That's the way I'm seeing it.
It's funny to me because, baseball is the only thing I bitch about. Literally, my buddy David and I do this weekly baseball show on Friday. The text messages him and I have going back and forth, of me just bitching. College basketball, I don't bitch. NBA basketball, college football, NFL, I just don't bitch. But when it comes to baseball, I bitch so much, and I'm going to be so glad not to do that. We're not going to listen to me whine about betting baseball. Real quick, before we jump on, you have this great show you're doing. You and Bobby just finished up your previews for college football. You're taking a week off, then you're going to start up again on the All 22 Dynasty Fantasy Football Show. Why don't you just tell everybody, what that is going to be? It's going to be every Friday night live at 10 p.m. Eastern starting August 29th.
That's it. We wrapped up 8 weeks of previews. 8 weeks. We did he's from Mississippi and I'm an Alabama fan, so we decided to do the SEC first. And ironically, our shows were a little bit longer on that because we're a little more passionate about that. And then I ran a poll on X and I said, because I was wanting to do the Sun Belt, because you're staying in the South. And, you know, I live in Arizona for those that don't know, but I wanted to stay in the South. So we ran a poll whether it was going to be Sun Belt, Big Ten, ACC, or Big 12, I believe it was, and Big Ten won. So we had to muster it up, and it wasn't too hard because he's more into the Dynasty, and I play Dynasty fantasy football as well. So it gives him, he's got access to all 22 film in college, which is really difficult to obtain. And it gives the viewer a sense to see some of these potential 26 picks that are coming out and what you can kind of keep your eyes peeled on for the season. So once we wrapped up our Big Ten series, which was last week, we're taking a week off because it is my 10-year wedding anniversary. So no sports. And then it's like the calm before the storm. He could use a break too, because he does all the like breakdowns of the film. And if you watch my channel or his channel, you'll see the effort he puts into that. Man deserves a break. So, but starting on Labor Day weekend, on week 1 of college football, what we're going to do is the first hour, we're probably going to be doing SEC football or top 25 football. We haven't really bridged the gap on that in the first hour. And then the second hour is going to be, we're going to pick all the NFL games against the line. We're just going to do lines. Maybe we'll do some totals, but we're definitely just going to pick a side just so it's easy because, your audience would like more like props and stuff like that, which is, great if you're into that stuff, but that's not the market I'm fully looking for. And then the last part of the show, we'll just be doing dynasty, like sit them, start them, put them on the block. Like I had a guy I picked up, I traded a 4th last week for that running back from Washington, Ja'Cory, with the hyphenated name. It escapes me, and now I'm getting offers for him. So I'm trying to snatch Ollie Gordon for him right now. So it's just kind of, you want to get a feel for what everybody does, and that's going to be our show every week. And since it's live on YouTube, if anybody wants to pop in and ask questions, they're more than welcome to. It'll be on X if you're watching on X, but we don't get any chats on X, so we can't see if you have questions there. So that's it, man.
It's a fun show. I peeked my head in when you're doing the preview for UCLA.
Yeah.
I peeked my head in on that. So good stuff. Good stuff. I did my first fantasy draft.
How'd it go?
I'm not going to lie. I am thoroughly surprised with how good my team is.
Yeah.
So with that being said, my team is probably going to suck. I had the second pick. It's a full point PPR.
Okay.
And just hear me out. For second pick, I went JJ. Went Justin Jefferson. I had
sure.
You had to. Came back around, and I look at it like I want to get number 1 wide receivers.
Right.
So I went Nico Collins.
Okay.
And then this is where I got ballsy. On the turn, I could have dove into those like I wanted Chase Brown, but Chase Brown was off the board. And there's no really like running back that really wowed me. But I had AJ Brown sitting right there.
Sure.
So I went AJ Brown. Coming back, I attacked my running backs. I got DeAndre Swift. I got Kenneth Walker. And then on the way back, I went Hawkinson. And then I really want to have the Seattle backfield. So I probably went a little too early. But Walker's injury history, I had handcuffs, so I got Zach Charbonnet. Went a little early with Charbonnet. And then I think in the 11th or 12th round, I got Dakota Prescott as my quarterback. So
yeah,
I feel real good about my team. And usually when I feel real good about my team ends up sucking. The big one is, and if someone drops out of it, you'll be the first one I ask, is I run a guillotine league. I don't know if you've done one of those before.
I have not. I'll
tell you what, my friend. Intense as hell. Last year, my team was rolling. And then I had a 2-week stretch when Kamara got hurt and Rashid Rice got hurt, and my team was done.
So that's when you'd have an elimination every week. It's kind of like a Survivor Fantasy League, right?
Exactly. If you have the lowest point, what I do for my league is you start with $1,000 budget.
Okay.
We do a snake draft. The lowest person, you're eliminated for the week. Now, all your team goes into the player pool. So you really have to do a good job drafting your team and my team was great because I had Allen, Rice, Kamara, those 3, and then when those guys got hurt, I think I was out like week 6. So it was fun. I'll definitely invite you in, but let's jump right into it. Let's talk a little NFC East. We're going to start off with the Giants. We're going to be going how they finished last year. The Giants, and all these odds are via bookmaker, are 190-1 to win the Super Bowl, 100-1 to win the NFC, 27-1 to win the East, over under 5.5 to make the playoffs, plus 550 to miss the playoffs, minus 800. What say you about the New York Football Giants, my friend?
Well, first of all, I I like the over on that for the season total. I think that they're going to be defensively. That is a great football team. They got the front four that are just going to wreak havoc. I mean, they don't just play Philadelphia. I think you're going to see other teams that they play because they'll have a weaker schedule being in last place to where they can get pressure and that can win them some ball games. All that they seem to really have been missing has been a steady hand at quarterback. So, and what we've seen with Russell Wilson, he feels like he's back right now. It looks good. He looks good. And, he's always been a player in my eyes who's cared about football. I know he's a little strange, but when it comes to the football field, he's serious business. I like the over 5.5 there. I think they can win 6 games. I would even like for a little bit of a long shot for them to make 7 seed in the playoff. I think that the NFC is wide open. Mm-hmm. There's outside of really the NFC North and Philly, right? I don't see any, I think the Commanders are going to fall back a little bit, which we'll get to that in a minute. But I think that the 7th shot, the goal is to make the playoffs. I think that's within reason. Again, because defensively they're good. They got, a 1-2 punch in the backfield. I mean, they got Malik Neighbors, and, I think Russell Wilson can lead them to that. There's potential there. It's just a potential. So just for the odds alone, I think that's a little ticket you might want to put in there, a little lotto ticket for the season.
Yeah, I mean, they're an interesting team. I mean, for me, I'll start kind of up front. When we look at their offensive line rankings, 28th in pass blocking, 23rd in run blocking, 22nd in sacks allowed, 21st adjusted line yards. Struggled badly, but I think they're going to improve in 2025. Andrew Thomas, who's their best player, missed half the season, needs to stay healthy. They drafted McBow to play the other tackle position. They're moving Evan Neal, who's been an utter disappointment. They're going to move him to guard. It's just that tackle position where Neal played was just such a liability. They need to improve that pass pro. When we look at
so good at Alabama, he was so good. It's mind blowing that he has struggled the way he has.
And it's just, but some guys are like that. Remember OJ Howard? Randomly, I was talking about OJ Howard the other day.
I got one that's worse. Remember Alex Leatherwood? Alex Leatherwood played at Alabama, but I didn't think he was. I personally didn't think that he was great because I full disclosure for your audience, Alabama is up here and every other sport's down here for me. So when I see these guys in the NFL, I've got more of an honest trajectory of what I think they're going to do, and I've been pretty on par with how I feel their performances are going to really pan out, with the exception of Trent Richardson. Yeah, underachieving, and Najee Harris did way more than I anticipated him to do. So Najee Harris has never broke a 40-yard run in his entire career, for the record.
And he plays with fireworks and gets hurt. We look at the offensive scheme of the Giants. Spread the field with 3-4 wide receiver sets. Looks to isolate coverage, simplify quarterback reads, heavy use of RPOs. They look to freeze the linebackers and safeties. The bull West Coast style, lots of yards after the catch opportunities. His thing is he at least wants 2 wide receiver options moving toward the quarterback in every single play, hence the high completion percentage for his quarterback. When we look at Wilson, he led the NFL in checkdowns last year with the Steelers, not as mobile as Daniel Jones. How is that all going to work? The moonball deep shots to Slayton, I think, are a natural fit in this offense if he's willing to take them. Obviously, I think the plan is Dart is there waiting, and he's looked good. If Wilson does struggle to start the season, I think he's going to be put in there sooner rather than later. Neighbors, the alpha wide receiver. So Malik Neighbors, this is the stat that really stood out to me. He played in 15 games last year.
Right.
He had at least 8 targets. And we all know targets equal opportunity. 8 targets in all 15 games. He was the only player to have 8 targets in that many games.
Yeah.
So no matter who's the quarterback, he was putting up numbers with Tommy freaking DeVito. He's going to put up numbers. Finished 7th in yards last year. So with that being said, my bet on the Giants, I took him 11-1 to lead the league in rushing yards. I think, to me, that's worth a bet. I think Wilson knows this is his last shot as a starter. I think They're going to take shots down the field, and it's going to be a passing offense, especially if this offensive line struggles trying to get the ball in his hand. So I took Neighbors 1,100. Slayton's going to be the deep threat. Neighbors is going to be underneath along with Wendell Robinson. Tyrone Tracy, zone runs, pass catching upside. I think he has some PPR value. I'm interested to see, and I want to hear your opinion on this after I say my 2 cents about him. Cam Skaggs, power, gap runs, short yardage. I don't think he has PPR value, but he had so many carries coming out of Arizona State. He is a little small, and he likes to he seeks out contact. You know what I mean? He'll run you over.
Sure.
Can you in this league?
Well, I don't know if that's so. If it was me, I mean, the Giants have clearly committed to Tyrone Tracy. So what Cam Skaggs can do is he can come in there and be your short yardage back and be productive at it. I don't think he's on the level of Mike Allstott to where you can just expect him to make big runs, but I think that he is one of the most, I would use, high effort runners that I've seen breaking tackles. Like, he doesn't go down without a fight on every single play. Not saying that these NFL athletes don't, but like, he outwills a lot of defenders. He did it in the Big 12. He did it against Texas. I mean, he was just cooking them. When they played the Texas game in the playoff last year, he was just
he's a man. Yes. But
I don't think it's sustainable long term. That's the thing. Like, and running backs aren't meant to be. And I think if they have, they can switch up with those two guys. And as defense, you got to change your scheme a little bit, because you're not getting 1 and 1A. You're getting, like a horse and a donkey, I guess would be the comparison. They're two different completely styles of runners, and you've got to just be able to defend that. I think he'll be okay. I don't think he's a long-term solution. I would avoid him in fantasy at all costs.
And then we kind of look at the coaching staff. Like, when we just kind of step back, I mean, I think this coaching staff, under a lot of pressure after how bad, and the front office, how bad 2024 was, letting Barkley walk away in free agency and him having the season he did, mishandling the Jones benching and the injury and all the public talk about the quarterback and everything. Right. I kind of feel they need, to make the playoffs for the front office and the Bull to keep their job.
Part of why I like
the lack of offensive line talent, I think, kind of caps their ceiling. To me, I agree with you. I think they could, because of how good the defense is and how weak the NFC is, kind of sneak into that 7 spot. We look at their defense, 3-4 base, emphasize the size up front over speed. Lawrence, elite anchor, occupies multiple gaps. I love the rookie Darius Alexander. I think he's going to be absolute beast up front. You got Burns, you got Thibodeau, you got Abdul Carter. That's 3 elite pass catchers.
Dude.
I expect the rotation to keep them fresh. Giants last year blitzed the 9th most in the league, despite their DC Shane Bowden's preference not to blitz. So it's going to be interesting. You have all these elite pass rushers. Are they going to go back to what Bowden wants to do and not blitz as much? Now, my concern with the defensive line is they're really bad against the run last year. Are they going to be a little bit better next year? I really think that's a key, especially with Philadelphia wanting to run the ball. Washington leans on their run game, and Dallas offensive line is going to be a little bit better. So I'm a little bit worried about that. 2024, the 8th fewest passing yards allowed, 8th shortest ADOT 7.2. So their secondary was fine. So to me, this whole defense, they need to be able to stop the run, and their offensive line needs to be able to protect. I think, to me, if we watch and their offensive line is doing good, to make the playoff bet makes sense to me. But pre-flop, all I'm doing is Malik Neighbors plus 1,100 to lead the league in receiving yards. Excuse me. And I love him in fantasy, but I think it's a little too. How can I word this? I think like the 6th and 7th pick, that's where I'm taking Malik Neighbors.
Sure.
Let's go ahead. Let's jump into the team I hate the most in the NFL, the Dallas Cowboys. 49-1 to win the Super Bowl, 22-1 to win the NFC, plus 590 to win the East, over under 8.5 to make the playoffs, plus 170 to miss the playoffs, minus 210. What say you about America's team, my friend?
Well, we don't know what's going on with Micah Parsons, so I think that's a big deal when you're making a wager. This is not some player that's just rotational. There was news today that the Packers were willing to send a boat for him, and I think that would be absolutely fantastic because I'm a Green Bay Packer fan. I was reading today that the sides aren't even remotely close. They're not even speaking. And we're getting kind of close. I mean, preseason wraps up. Either Jerry Jones is trying to do some kind of crazy stuff. I don't know. Remember when he tried to do that with Emmitt Smith, and then they started off 0-2, and then they paid him his money, and they went on to win the Super Bowl. I'm not saying that's the same scenario here, but you have an all-elite impact pass rusher who's four-time All-Pro. You've got to get that guy on the field. Otherwise, that changes the trajectory big time of what you're going to bet on the Cowboys. So until that situation resolves itself, I would avoid pretty much any futures bets on this team. But if he is in there, I like to play a little bit of money for them to win the East. I think that with Mike McCarthy out the door, they can be undervalued and underestimated. Dak Prescott is healthy. You've got George Pickens. You finally got a number 2 in there that seems really happy where he's at. So it's going to take some pressure off of CeeDee Lamb. You're going to have to kind of pick your poison. I think teams will try and test that. They got to go K tight end. There's questions on the running game, although Jaden Blue, the rookie, looks pretty decent. Javonte Williams was supposed to be electric, and he's 2 years removed from his injuries, so we'll see how he does. He's on a 1-year deal. And then, Miles Sanders I wasn't too high on anyway. I think he had his best years in Philadelphia, and I think he's nursing an injury right now. But on the defense side of the ball, it's Trayvon Diggs and DeRon Bland. Those are really good corners when they want to be, but they give up a lot to try and get the turnovers. Feels like there's a little bit of a bounce back in Dallas. I think that there's fresh blood in there. They wanted to blame Mike McCarthy, but Mike McCarthy led that team to the playoffs every year except last season. I think he got way too much unnecessary heat for some reason, and another NFL team is going to scoop him up next season. I have zero doubt about it. He might be a New York Giants head coach. I mean, he could be a Giants coach, because he was winning with those teams, and he's been a winning coach wherever he's went. But as far as the bets, I would like the long shot kind of there if I'm going to do a little play to win the East. Even though Philadelphia is so loaded, when I'll have my reasons on Philly when we get to them. But I think that, they're pretty good all around. They got good linebackers. They got Mazzie Smith up front. They don't have a whole lot of holes in there. They were a little small in linebacking, but that seems to kind of be better. So I think that they're going to have a better season than last year for sure.
I mentioned how much I hate this team, and this is the team I have the most futures on. I hate this team. So let's start off. New offensive staff. You got Brian Schottenheimer, promoted from OC, pass first mindset. Offensive line coach Connor Riley from Kansas State, North Dakota State, run heavy background. Now, last 2 years, what Arizona has been able to do in the run game has been great, and that can all be traced to Clayton Adams, who is their offensive line coach. He is now the offensive coordinator for the Cowboys. Shanahan. So I think the offensive line, because Adams is there and Riley, is going to be much improved. Shanahan style, simplify the formations versus McCarthy's complex scheme, more 3 wide receiver sets, spread the defense, create mismatch. West Coast elements, shallow crosses, curl, dive routes, quicker decisions, all 4 yards after the catch opportunities. Still deep pass aggression. Now third and deep pass rate in 2023, 9th in 2024, even without Dak. So they're still throwing the ball downfield last year, even though Dak wasn't there. Offensive line last year was a disaster. 23rd pass blocking, 19th run blocking, 14th sacks allowed, but 11th in adjusted yards, which isn't bad. They used the first-round pick on Tyler Booker, physical fit for the new run scheme. Tyler Gotton should improve in this new simplified run blocking scheme. Cooper Beebe reunites with Riley, had one in college. I think he's going to be a strong interior presence. I think the unit is going to improve greatly. The main thing is they don't have much depth. They cannot get hurt. Now, we talked about Javonte Williams. He's going to be the RB1. Needs to regain back form. When he came out of North Carolina, I was really heavy on him, but he just can't stay healthy. Right. Jaden Blue, explosive playmaker. He's a better fit for the power counter scheme. So I really don't know how much he works in this scheme. Going to be interesting to see how that happens. Last year, when you want to look at what the collapse of the Cowboys last year was, the year before in 2023 they're 14th in rushing. Last year 27th. I think this new scheme, and I think the upgrades on the coaching staff and the upgrades on the offensive line, I think Dallas is going to be able to run the ball. CeeDee Lamb still going to be the alpha, but now you got George Pickens, who is not going to allow you to double CeeDee Lamb. He's going to draw coverage away, big play upside in the Schottenheimer's philosophy. Dak, healthy is everything, quicker reads, simpling offense. As I said, more yards after the catch. Now, for me, I always like targeting the teams that have a DC or OC that was a head coach, didn't work out, and got fired. That's what you got in Matt Eberflus. Eberflus was a great DC with the Colts, and the Bears, his tenure as coach wasn't that good, but their defense was still electric. He brings in his hustle, intensity, takeaways, and smarts, his hit system, as he calls it. A lot more stunts, a lot more twists on the defensive line designed to start the run. Now, if Parsons gets in there, the scheme is going to let him roam around. He's going to be all over the field. He has tremendous sack upside. So one of the bets I would like, if he starts, if he's in Dallas and doesn't start the season, that number for him to lead the league in sacks is just going to climb up. Right. So I bet him to have the most sacks if he's in Dallas to start the season. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? Like if he's there with Dallas, because he didn't have the freedom to roam last year. They're going to have him all over the line. Now, obviously, you're going to need Odighizuwa and Smith to be good in the interior, stopping the run. Diggs comes back from the injury, huge for the secondary. Now, they allowed the fourth most rushing yards last year. They need to be able to stop the run. They need Wilson to step up with coverage. Now, for me, these are my bets, dude. I have a lot of them. Bet number one. In 2023, who finished second in the MVP voting, and you could have made an argument he could have won it?
No, it could have been Dak.
Dak Prescott, 40-1 MVP, my friend. Runner-up, last healthy season. The narrative's there. Schottenheimer's offense, simplified reads, fewer mistakes. Quick game plus deep shots. I think it's an ideal balance for Dak's skill set. Plus, he's got the supporting cast upgrades. Pickens a deep threat, frees up Lamb underneath. The run game is going to utilize the play action pass. Now, I also like the Cowboys to win the East. If that happens, that's just going to help his MVP candidacy. Now, I play the Cowboys plus 190 to make the playoffs and plus 680 to win the East. Coaching change, clear offensive identity, offensive line run game upgrade. Biggest weakness of the offense was addressed. The defense, if Parsons gets there, you have him and Diggs healthy in the Eberflus scheme, which is going to shine what those guys do best. Trivia question for you, man. When was the last time NFC East had a repeat champion?
Was it the Cowboys with Aikman and crew?
I believe it was the Eagles in 2004. I just had the year.
Sorry. I thought you meant Super Bowl.
No. There's not been an NFC East repeat winner to 2024. I'm low on the Commanders. We'll get there in a second. I don't think the Giants are quite there offensively, and I think the Eagles regress. I think the Cowboys are positioned for a bounce back year with Dak and a healthy roster. I mean, dude, plus 680, I think, is just massive value. So
for sure.
Yeah. I mean, you got to do it. The next team. Did you see that there's a thing to get them back to the Redskins? I kind of like it when they're just the Washington football team. But we're going to talk about the Commanders. Yeah.
Before we get into the commies, I'm curious. Why is it that you hate the Dallas Cowboys more than any other team?
Because they're so great. Okay. I'm a Lions fan.
Okay.
There was our best shot. I hate when people say that. The Lions' best shot to win the Super Bowl. They went down there. Now, they threw what happened. There's a play to Pettigrew. They called off defensive pass interference, which should have gave the Lions the game. But they picked up the flag. who was it? One of their wide receivers, T.O., ran onto the field without his helmet on. That should have been a 15-yard penalty.
Yeah.
And I was a kid. My hatred just ballooned for that. Plus, they're always so goddamn good. That's why I don't like the Cowboys. Because, when I've grown up, the Pistons had a couple good year run. The Tigers had a good year run. But that's all I've had. I'm not used to being around. I hate teams that are good.
Except when but good for you for putting them aside to put those futures on them, because at least you're wise enough to not throw your money away out of emotion. So that's a great gambler's creed. Good for you.
Hey, buddy, you know what? My pocketbook is my number one thing.
That's right.
Let's talk a little Commanders. Commanders plus 1925 to win the Super Bowl, plus 910 to win the NFC, plus 226 to win the East, over under 9.5 to make the playoffs, minus 150 to miss the playoffs, plus 125. What say you about the good old Washington Commanders?
I see regression here. Jaden Daniels, he played outstanding. There's lots of stories in the NFL about rookie quarterbacks going and making these runs. I mean, he had them within a game of the Super Bowl, but came across the juggernaut on the road. Game wasn't even close. Philadelphia absolutely dismantled this team in the NFC Championship by halftime. It was just a wrap. Saw some Jaden Daniels at LSU, wins the Heisman Trophy, but he can't carry the team. I don't know what's so good. Or he carried the team. He carries them, but it's inconsistent. Like, he'll have a great year and then a missed year. I also think the Commanders were favored by a lousy schedule last season. If you look back, the teams that the Commanders beat, none of them were really world beaters in their own right. They just snuck into the playoffs towards the end there. They should have had the 7th seed, but the Packers screwed around in Soldier Field and let them win the game, or Lambeau to close out against Chicago, and it cost them that game. So with that being said, the Commanders went, immediately and took out your Detroit Lions, and it wasn't close.
Run the ball. Just run the ball, Ben. Just run the ball. We're averaging 10 yards a freaking carry, dude. Just run the ball, Ben. But go ahead.
And then so now they're having they don't know what they were going to do with Terry McLaurin. So this is another team that's having one of their superstars, really complain about what's going on with their contract. And that happens in the league. We're not foolish to it. But they're shopping Brian Robinson. So are they confident in Austin Eckler and a bunch of nobodies really back there in the backfield, a bunch of unprovens, let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
Everything is going to fall on Jaden Daniels. And now there's film on him, and now there's scheme on him. And defensively, there isn't really anybody on that team that just absolutely frightens me. I mean, this is the 7th seed last season for a reason. Yeah. There's a lot of hype here. I would bet them to miss the playoffs this season. I don't think that this happens for them. I think Jaden Daniels is a good kid, and he's a great player, and he makes plays. He runs great, throws great, won the Heisman Trophy, played at LSU. He's got everything that you want. He was the number 2 pick, rightfully so, for a reason. Has playoff wins. I mean, those are traits that you just don't take away from even though I'm of the camp that quarterbacks that wins aren't a quarterback stat, because they're not. They're a team stat. It's not like baseball. Yeah. But I see regression. I like them to miss the playoffs. I would lay the vig on that, just because it just doesn't feel right. There's just like, can you name a superstar on the defensive side of the football that's going to make a difference? No. That somebody else, even in their own division. I think that they're candidates to actually finish last, which I know will sound crazy to a lot of people, but I think that the Giants could have a better season than them. I like the Giants roster better than the Commanders.
You could make an argument that this is the worst defense in the division.
It's just like, their secondary doesn't look good. The Bengals are torching them. We're torching them in the first half. I don't know if you were catching it, but Joe Burrow was just out there dicing them with a lousy offensive line. They look bad. And their backups, Jake Browning, was in there throwing darts wide open. Guys are wide open in the middle. And you can't do too much preseason, rolling over into the regular season and putting projections on it, because if we did that, then the Bears are playing in the Super Bowl. What we saw from them last night.
I mean, the Bears were playing against guys that are going to be insurance salesmen in like a year.
I took the Bears -3, just so you know. I was all over that.
I can honestly say I hardly bet preseason NFL. Let's start with the offensive line. Bobby Johnson, the coach, 22nd last year in pass blocking, 28th run, 20th sacks allowed, 19th adjusted yards. I think Jaden Daniels was able to band-aid how bad the offensive line was. Now, when I say those numbers, people are going to kind of be amazed because everyone thought their offensive line was good, but just looking at those numbers, not that good. I think Daniels' mobility kind of band-aided it. Cosme is out with a torn ACL, which is a big loss. I know a lot of people are making a big thing about Laramie Tunsil coming in, but when you look at it, he really didn't have that great of a year for the Texans last year. They added Conley Jr., the first rounder. He's going to provide some depth. Now, Kingsbury no longer is calling it the air raid, is now the spread with air raid tendencies. Top 5 offense, had a championship run last year, most RPOs in the NFL, third in play to action rate. Everything was quick passes, 2.36 average time to throw, third fastest in the league. Low depth of target, 21st ADOT, 31st deep pass attempts. Short routes intentionally designed to limit the risk for Daniels. We need to remember he's a frail guy. When he got hurt, I believe it was week 8 or week 9, we saw him running less and less and less and less. When you're speaking of the run game, 5th most rushing attempts in the NFL last year. Daniels led the team in rushing, despite having fewer attempts than Brian Robinson. Robinson is on the trade block. They have Chris Rodriguez. They got Jeremy Nichols. They got the kid, JCM, who probably would have been a 4th or 3rd round draft pick if he didn't have to sit out last year. So you hit the nail on the head. They have a lot of unproven guys. If they trade Brian Robinson, the big rumor is he's going to be traded to Miami because of the injuries at Achin. Now, when we look at the wide receiver room, brought in Debo. Is he going to get some run at the running back position? I really don't know. Terry McLaurin is still the number 1. He had instant chemistry with Daniels, but the contract, the holdout, that's a major storyline. Because when people say Jaden Daniels, they remember that first year at Arizona State when he had Brandon Ayuk, an NFL wide receiver, or his last year at LSU where he had Brian Thomas Jr. and Malik Neighbors. 2 NFL wide receivers. No one talks about those times where he didn't have NFL caliber wide receivers. I'm a little bit worried about the passing game if McLaurin holds out. I'm not the biggest Debo guy. I think he's going to take a step back. I think all the hits are going to wear on him. They got Gallup, who's for deep balls, but you know what? He's not the Michael Gallup of old. I don't know how this passing game is going to look if there's no Terry McLaurin. I really don't. Yeah. Defensively, a lot of 3-5 down linemen, cover 3 shells, decides coverage. Now, you mentioned their defense. Last year, from the worst passing defense to the 3rd fewest yards allowed. Just 80 missed tackles, 5th best. But they didn't do anything. It was the same guys. It was you know what I mean? So when I see that and I don't see any talent come in and this huge upgrade, and don't get me wrong, I think Quinn's a good coach.
Yeah.
But that's not all coach. You know what I mean? That's not all coaching. To me, that's a lot of variance stuff. And I think we're going to see the variance, as you mentioned, kind of come back. They did bring in Kinlaw, Goldman, and Wise in the front. They added Jones, Amos, and Lattimore going to be at the DBs. Run defense, they allowed 5 yards per carry. I think there's regression in the pass defense. I think there's no depth in the secondary. I think Lattimore is aging. I bet under 9.5 wins at plus 110.
That's a great bet.
12 wins. Excuse me, the Pythagorean win total is 8.75. Usually when it's one the other way, it means they're going to go over and under. Obviously, this being plus 1.25, it leans to them having regression. So I bet that's one of the reasons. 8-3 in one possession games, unsustainable. That's going to even out. But the big thing is this: 20 for 23 on 4th down conversion last year. How is that fucking possible?
Well, there's a turnaround stat that usually the season that you have all the turnovers and all those things go in your favor, the next year it kind of regresses back to the mean.
Yeah.
And like you're saying, like, and then when you look at the Commanders draft, they didn't exactly draft well. I mean, they drafted an offensive lineman. They drafted Connolly. They did draft Trey Amos, who I was hoping the Packers would snag, but they passed on him. But then after that, it's a bunch of nobodies. You know, their draft was, they didn't have a 3rd round pick. They didn't have a 5th round pick. And I think that you're seeing a lack of depth on this Commanders team. It's going to come back and haunt them. Remember, they were a 7 seed to get in the playoffs. They were a 7 seed. They were not a 2 seed. They made it far. They had a run, and Jaden Daniels is exciting. And I think the markets are saying, hey, he has arrived. We're going to go ahead and set these numbers high. And I think that the bettors out there are going to take the bait, sadly, because the only receiver I don't really care for Debo much, like you do, or like you said, I'm in agreement with how Debo is. But I mean, he had a touchdown tonight. He looked like he shed a little bit of weight. But I'm a sucker for De'Ami Brown. I do like him. I think that he's super talented. I mean, he was on that offense with Sam Howell at North Carolina and was just tearing it up. And I don't know why hasn't gotten more opportunities, because when they throw him the football, things happen. But Cliff Kingsbury likes to do some really goofy stuff. I mean, he's a pariah down here in Arizona. They ran that dude out of town and don't care to see him again. And I think that you're going to see the same thing with this Commanders team this season. I like the bets that you placed for sure. Not making the playoffs. There's definitely regression. It's Jaden Daniels carrying the entire team, but Jaden Daniels can't do that. He's not Tom Brady or, John Elway or Aaron Rodgers, where you can got enough talent to overcome all those inefficiencies. And the running back situation really is bleak. They're really going to go on a 7th rounder. I mean, it's just, if they're going to do that, you better hope that your offensive line makes it happen.
But in fairness, though, he only sat out because of some clerical error at Arizona. He would have been a higher pick. He would have been in the 4th or 5th round. I think he was a little bit of a steal. And to me, this kind of reminds me of the Texans. You know what I mean? Like the Texans, everyone was really high in them last year. Everyone was betting them to win the Super Bowl. CJ Stroud regressed. I think we're going to see that there. Because I don't know how you feel about quarterbacks, Scott. I always feel the second year is the year. Because if we don't, these are either going to be heavy regression or heavy positive regression. I think since we're going to see film on Jaden Daniels, I think we're going to see him take a step back. Now let's get to defending Super Bowl champions. If you watched the show last year, we cashed them at plus 1,800 to win the Super Bowl. But this year, they're plus 690 to win the Super Bowl, plus 330 to win the NFC, minus 145 to win the East, and over under of 11.5 to make the playoffs, minus 370. Sorry, to make the playoffs, minus 370, to miss the playoffs, plus 290. What say you about the defending Super Bowl champions, my friend?
Well, I would not. I think that there's a slight regression. I don't think that I don't know what to make of the NFC, because first of all, Philadelphia has so much talent and they've drafted so well because they're smart. They drafted Alabama and Georgia players. That's it. That's the key to success. Just draft Alabama and Georgia players, and you've got well-coached, NFL-ready talent that wins. And it seems to just have worked in Philadelphia. And, they just traded for John Mechie, who I didn't think was a superstar at Alabama. I mean, he's loved there. He's the one who did the crane kick. Him and Jameson Williams did the crane kick, and Devontae Smith. So he's reunited with Devontae Smith over there. And defensively, they've got really good players as well. They're just a good all-around football team. But I feel like this is a situation that I think feels like a hangover. And it starts with the head coach. I think that Sirianni, they went in there and dismantled Kansas City, who I think is cracking at the foundation. Side note, I think that the Chiefs betting them to miss the playoffs is a good value there. I'm going to go on a limb and say that for your viewers, but that's another show. But I would just say I would take that. I think the AFC is much better. Huh?
I'm going to tell you what, that was the bet I gave out during the AFC West show, and I had our boy Bryce from the I Need a Sports Pod on it, who's a huge Chiefs fan, and him and I have a huge side wager on that. So I completely agree. I think the Chiefs do not make the playoffs, but go ahead, my friend.
But Philadelphia's got great players. I mean, they got Saquon Barkley. I mean, they've got an offense designed smartly enough to cater to Jalen Hurts' strengths, which are his legs. I mean, he can throw the ball down the field, but sometimes he makes these really sloppy reads, and there is some inconsistency that gets masked by his ability to run the ball or Saquon's ability to run the ball. He doesn't have to do all the load. They got great wide receivers with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. Those two guys are 1 and 2. You know, Devontae Smith's a Heisman Trophy winner. You know, it's everything feels too perfect here. I think that they're a playoff team. I think that they can make that 11 wins. I think that that's within reason. They likely, it's either them or Dallas. I think that wins the East. I think that's a fair comparison, but I like the odds on the Cowboys a little more just for the value. But if they won the East and went to the playoffs and made a run, it wouldn't be surprising. I would never place a Super Bowl future on it, though. On back-to-back, it's so hard to do. It's hard for Patrick Mahomes to do, who's 5 times the quarterback that Jalen Hurts is. And then, like I said, but Cooper DeJean has just been an absolute star for them. You know, but there's, like you said, you know, we see how you are in your second season a little bit too. But they've got experience. They've got their quarterback signed up. If Landon Dickerson can play, then they'll be fine. You know, if he's out on the offensive line, then you've got Lane Johnson and a couple other guys that are going to be able to maintain that because he is a leader. He is a big, strong hillbilly up in the middle, up in the front. So I think that the Eagles will be fine, but I don't think that they're going to be as dominant as they were last season. Let's just put it that way.
When we look at the Eagles, they are one of the best oiled machines. Very analytical driven. James Gilman, I found out, is their director of analytics. And basically how their week starts is when the game's going on, Gilman is already looking at stuff for next week, and then him and Sirianni meet on Monday. And then him and Sirianni kind of form what the game plan is going to be offensive, defensively based on the analytics. And then they distribute it to the coordinators. They're the only team in the NFL that kind of does it. They're the most analytical driven team in the NFL. Organization, well-oiled machine. Look at the offensive coordinator. Kevin Putro, promoted from passing game coordinator, is going to be the new OC. The main thing he wants to do that I found while doing my research is he wants to see an increase in deep passing volume for Jalen Hurts, 18th in deep pass attempts last season. Heavy shotgun, RPOs, more vertical passing, more deep routes, motion pre-snap to force a defense to reveal the coverage. Run game, you know what it's going to be. Barkley and Hurts, heavy combo, unstoppable in 2024. Tush push. Because of the tush push, Hurts is going to be a top 5 quarterback. Anytime it gets down 2 and in, it's going to be the tush push. O-line still elite, starting to show a little cracks though. 6 pass blocking, 4th run blocking, 21st sacks allowed, 20th adjusted yards. Tackles are dominant, but Lane Johnson is aging. They got some depth pieces in Hilton, Williams, Kendall, Pryor, Green, and Lamb. They did lose Mikael Becton to the Chargers, which I think is a huge loss. Still a run-first team, but I expect them to pass a little bit more. Because of that, I think A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith are both going to be extremely undervalued in fantasy. Like we were talking earlier, I got A.J. Brown at the 3rd round. I mean, for me, that's just an absolute no-brainer. He still has wide receiver 1 upside. Smith going in 5th and 6th rounds, looking at the latest ADP. I think that's some I think he's going to finish top 20. Barkley, 482 touches in 2024, the most since Eddie George. I'm going to get to that a little bit later, but I'm a little bit worried he's going to regress. Fangio, dude's a stud. From 26th to 1st in defense under Fangio. 3-4, heavy disguise, limited blitzing, cover shells, a lot of cover 4 quarters. Versatile fronts, D-line required to control multiple gaps. You mentioned it. That's why they've drafted all these Georgia and Alabama guys, because of how good they are in the trenches. Secondary, young, aggressive, press man. They drafted Mitchell and Dijon last year, some impact players that are young. They added Ringo and Makubo, who's a rookie. I'm sure I butchered that name. Now you got Davis and Carter up front, clogging in the middle. They did lose Jonathan Sweat, so I'm a little bit worried about that. That is a elite pass rusher that they did lose. Bottom line, defense is a defense. I think the defense is elite. I think it could going to, again, you need one of the better ones in the league. My bet for this, and I'm going to get a lot of flack because on my fantasy football account, I got a lot of flack for this. Saquon Barkley under 14.5 rushing yards. And I'm not drafting him in the fantasy this year. If Saquon Barkley is on the board, I'm not going to draft him in any of my drafts. 28 years old, danger zone to recline. 482 touches. That's the third most in the last 25 years.
Yeah.
Running backs after 450 touches or a 2,000-yard season always fall off.
Wow.
29th in rush attempts per broken tackle last year, which is low. Kind of leads to how elite the offensive line was. He's got 9 career injuries.
Yep.
Last year was the first year he made it through the whole season. Workload management. The Eagles brought in A.J. Dillon. To me, that kind of says I think they're going to limit what they did. Now, these are running backs after a 2,000-yard season. Eric Dickerson, 1,200 yards. Barry Sanders, 1,400 yards. Terrell Davis, 211. Jamal Lewis, 1,000. Chris Johnson, 1,300. Adrian Peterson, 1,200. Derrick Henry, 900. All these runners after 2,000 yards, only Barry went over the 1,400 yard. I don't think elite production is stable. And he's only gone over this total one time in his career, and that was last year.
You get that Super Bowl bump. That's what it is. It's Super Bowl bump. The electric highlight against Jacksonville. He's on the cover of Madden. Don't forget that little thing. And I'm in agreement with you. I'm going to agree with that fully because the only unicorn that I've seen at those running back positions, I think that Derrick Henry is the exception to the rule. He's still going strong, and that dude's been fed hundreds and hundreds of carries. He was a workhorse in high school, workhorse at Alabama. I mean, he shared the backfield with Josh Jacobs, of all people, and Josh Jacobs, Najee Harris, and what's his name was right after him too. I can't.
Brian Robinson.
Damian Harris. So, but nonetheless, he Derrick Henry's the exception to that rule. I mean, but I agree with you about Saquon's injury history. I mean, he's torn his ACL. He's had hamstring problems. Like I said, I think that this is a hangover situation because Sirianni his personality isn't built for this. I'm taking that as well. He's got a culture there of F you. When he's flipping off fans, he's calling out fans, and if his team wasn't so stacked, that dude would be run out of town anywhere else under any circumstances. I don't even think that he's one of the elite coaches. And I know what you said about analytics, but I don't feel that football is a game where that's sustainable. I think that analytics can, if you use too much of it, and that's for fantasy football. It's not for real football. And if you're game planning according to that all the time, eventually these things will catch up to you.
Yeah.
So that's my take on Philly. Should be good, should be a playoff team in the NFC. I just don't know if they make a run. It feels like the 49ers had that dominant run with a bunch of all-stars in their team, and then last year they go 6-11. Yeah, so it can be that kind of situation.
I mean, for me, I think they definitely make the playoffs. If I had to bet the over-under, I'd probably go to the under. Very hard to win double-digit games. To me, though, the NFC is so wide open. I don't want them to have a not to make the playoff bet, if that makes sense. I just think that, how can I word this? When you kind of step back and look at the NFC, the teams I trust in the NFC, I trust the Bucs because of their division. Okay, the South is really weak. I trust the Packers, and that pains me to say it because of their coaching staff and how good they did as one of the youngest teams. And then the Eagles are probably the third team I trust in the NFC when you just kind of look back and kind of look at every team's division and their internal situation. think the Eagles are the team I trust the third most. So kind of hard for me to bet them not to make the playoffs, so that makes sense.
Of course. Yeah, you're going to lay big sometimes, or you're just going to take smart bets. It doesn't always have to be a value bet. I mean, that's what you look for as a bettor. But when you just see things that you just know in your heart of hearts are the right call, but that team, if Jalen Hurts gets injured, then that changes the entire trajectory of that team. But the man squats 700 pounds, so hurting him is going to be kind of difficult to do. He's really almost never missed any games with injury. He's very reliable at staying healthy and running the ball into big piles. I mean, even though it's really you're just kind of falling forward, but it still does some wear and tear on your body for sure.
The only game he did miss is, when I had him in fantasy football, and I needed to
draft him again.
But yeah, you're looking at it right now. MVP, DTR, Kyle McCord. That's who you have after Jalen Hurts. So if there is some offensive line issues, Dickerson goes down, or Lane Johnson goes down, or they can't really replace Becton. There is going to be a little bit of an issue. And when you kind of look at this wide receiver crew, I mean, I'm looking at their depth chart right now. I mean, Jesus, you got A.J. Brown, you got Devontae Smith, you got Jalen Dotson, you got Johnny Wilson, who is a tall jump ball threat. You just brought in Michi. Now, I was hugely high on Terrence Marshall when he came out of LSU, went to Carolina.
Yeah, me too.
We got a chance. They have fucking Terrence Marshall. I mean, like, Jesus Christ. I mean, Howie, dude, how good are you at your freaking job getting together that much talent? Justin, I'd like to thank you for coming on, talking a little NFC East. I did make a college football bet, and that's going to be my last question to you with the Big Ten. Obviously, I'm a Michigan State homer, so I did have to bet the over 5.5 wins, but that's not my thing for you. I had a free bet.
Okay.
And my free bet was the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Yeah.
Not to make the college football playoff at plus 300. What are your thoughts, my friend?
I think you should have just burned your money there. I think that the playoff isn't the teams. All right. So we're looking at, I think that Penn State is going to win the Big Ten this season. They got the most returning players, very experienced squad, experienced quarterback, great running backs. I don't want to hear the nonsense about James Franklin's career record. I don't care. That's a foolish talking point, in my opinion. It's a foolish talking point what you've done in the past. I don't give a shit. It's 1 week, right? Mm-hmm. And last year they played for the Big Ten championship, but I don't think that there's enough teams roster-wise that are good enough to knock Ohio State completely out of the playoff. They've still got Caleb Downs. They've still got Jeremiah Smith. They got a 5-star quarterback that's starting. I mean, that's a new thing. I think that they're going to beat Texas in week 1. I think that there's a chance that Ohio State and Penn State play for the Big Ten championship, and Penn State is the only blemish on their record this season. I do think that they beat Texas, and there's just there isn't enough Big Ten strength to make this claim on Ohio State. Now, if you said an SEC team to kind of do that, I'd believe it more with that schedule gauntlet. But there's nobody in the Big Ten besides Penn State that I think matches up with Ohio State. So to make the playoff, I would take them over a lot of teams. So good luck on that bet. I mean, I don't hate Ohio State. As a Bama fan, I don't hate Ohio State, but I don't think that they're lousy enough to miss the playoff.
I mean, I'm looking at it like this. Like, if they have 3 losses, you know what I mean? That's kind of how I looked at it like that. If they have 3 losses, Who
are the 3 losses on the schedule?
Well, I'll say if they lose to Texas.
Okay. Penn State, sure.
Dude.
Is it going to be Michigan again?
The game that's really tricky on their schedule? There's 2 games that are strictly on their schedule.
What's that?
October 18th, back-to-back road games at the set. They go to Illinois, which is going to be a physical game. I think they get that one done. But then they have to travel up to Madison to play Wisconsin with Penn State on deck. I think that's going to be a tricky game. Greg Schiano always has Rutgers ready to play. You have to play Rutgers on the 22nd of November, the week before you play Michigan, with Rutgers coming off a bye. And Sirianni has been historically good off the bye at Rutgers. That's kind of the 2 sleepy spots. Plus 300, I had to take it. It was a free bet. Another free bet I made in the Big Ten. Made a couple free bets today, dude. I opened up a new little sports book. This one completely off the beaten path, and I absolutely hate myself for doing it.
Good.
I hate myself for doing it. You'll never guess what Big Ten team I bet at 11-1 just to make the conference championship game.
Minnesota.
USC.
Well, that's okay. So I don't think that's the worst bet, though. I think you get better odds at that one than you do the Ohio State one.
Mm-hmm. And it's plus 1100. You know what I mean? Like,
Lincoln Riley's ass is on fire right now, and I think that they're going to come out there and they have to do something. They still recruit well. I think that you got way better chance to hit that bet than you do the Ohio State bet. The Ohio State bet is, for the odds on the Ohio State bet, I think that, man, I can't believe you took that. Like, it's just I hope you hit it because I like it and I want everybody to win their bets. But I think you've got a better chance with that USC bet to make the – how about the SEC, though, before you go? Who do you like to miss the playoff or make the playoff there if you were throwing some things up?
Oh, my God.
I'll tell you one while you're thinking. I don't know if I told you this. I told XFL Jim this, though. So I have a prediction that's – I don't even know how you bet it. I couldn't find a book to lay it. But I think that the Ohio Bobcats only lose 1 game this season.
Yeah, you're telling me that before. You think
they beat Rutgers. They're going to beat West Virginia. They'll lose to Ohio State. They'll win the conference championship, and they'll be the first team to be strongly considered from the MAC to get one of those at-large bids. It's just that's a long shot there. If it was plus 1,000, I'd throw something on it, which it probably is.
The SEC, I bet, and I hate myself for what I'm about ready to say. I hate myself for doing this. I bet Alabama 11-1 to win it all. I really think Grug coming back is going to cure up some of their offensive issues. I think there's a lot of stuff going behind the scenes with Milroe and DeBoer last year. I think defensively, I think they have a great defensive coordinator, so I really like them. I bet them. And then
to win the SEC or win the whole thing?
Win the whole thing 11-1. Now, the thing I am either Texas or Georgia isn't going to make the playoffs.
Agreed.
Now,
and I know which one I like to miss it.
It comes down to who do you trust more, Manning or Stockton at the quarterback position? And I'm really going back and forth with this one. Because what happens if Archie just isn't that good?
So that's –
you know what I mean? So I haven't done it yet, but I'll probably bet Texas not to make the playoffs. And then I do have a nice bet. I got this one at 8-1, but this is for next year's draft for Nessmeyer to be the top pick at plus 800.
So I like both of those plays because when we were doing our Texas preview, that was our first show, the SEC. We decided to do it kind of geographically. So we started off with Texas A&M, Missouri, and Oklahoma. And so here's the thing with Texas. Wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, 4 offensive linemen, starting running back, quarterback, starting tight ends, all out the door. All of them. The entire offense is brand new, and all of it. They got to start a running back coming back from injury. And they've got a couple guys, like their wide receiver room is just it's the most unproven offense that's out there. And I think that everybody just is slobbing over the Manning name, and it's no discredit to Arch, but the only Arch highlights, if you look up some of his snaps, they're against bums. When he played in the Georgia game, he turned it over twice. Like, I'm not saying I think that they go in the horseshoe, and I think Ohio State beats them almost by double digits. I do. I think that that's your first game. Your first start is on the road in the horseshoe. Man, I'd love Ohio State laying the 2. Like, it's probably one of my favorite bets of the year. I could see Texas losing 4 games. I think Oklahoma beats them in Red River. I think Georgia is better coached. I think Ohio State, Georgia, and Oklahoma are all on the road, and I think that they're going to have problems in Florida. So your bet on Texas missing the playoff is absolutely not crazy. Everybody is all over the Longhorns, and I'm here to tell you right now that I could see them missing the playoffs. I could see them winning 10. They could still win 10 games and make it, but if they missed it, I would not be shocked at all. And it's the same thing you're talking about the Bulldogs on Georgia. Same thing. I think they're going to regret letting Carson Beck go to Miami because he's better, substantially better than Gunnar Stockton. Substantially.
But, I mean, Carson Beck had one of those twins down there, dude. So, I mean, like that.
But they're not even together anymore. They're not even a thing anymore.
No, they're back. They're back, dude. They're back, man.
So, nonetheless, Georgia had a really difficult time running the football last year. One of the worst efficient running teams in the Kirby Smart era. I think the thing with Georgia is they haven't lost a home game in forever until they play Alabama this year. And you're talking about, and I'm not being Alabama homerism here, when you look at that team, that's the most experienced returning starters in the SEC. Penn State has the most in the Big Ten. Alabama returns everybody except Milroe. And they lost Booker. And they lost Campbell. Those are 3 NFL players that they lost. And they've replaced the line just fine. The line's been looking good in camp along those sorts. Justin Jefferson was able to come back at the linebacking core with Deontay Lawson coming back off injury. And the secondary, I don't know what Kalen DeBoer is doing, but they're recruiting 5 stars back there. Last year, people forget they were running freshmen back there. They had 2 freshmen in the secondary that were still making plays. Xavier Brown was back there, and Keon Sabb comes back from injury. This team is loaded. So you're 11-1, Alabama winning it all. And I promise I'm not being a homer, but just like that, it feels like a good play. I have Alabama and Penn State playing for the national championship. That's my pick. It just feels right.
They're just too short.
You know, people want to clown on Kalen DeBoer for last season. Well, you know, he had to take over. First of all, you're still got Saban expectations. Because there was a new coach, they had a second transfer portal where Alabama couldn't receive any players. That's when McLaughlin and Caleb Downs and Isaiah Bond, I mean, great starters walked out the door, and they couldn't recruit anybody to come in there.
Yeah.
So I think what DeBoer did last year with Milroe was Milroe had the attitude, I'm going to stay here and we're going to stay with this Bama brand. And I think that he owed it to the team to kind of keep it together. Like, look, this guy stuck around. He's believing in the program. I think if he had started anybody else, they'd riot. And Jalen Milroe was just so streaky, you know, because if you look at the LSU game when they ran quarterback power, they could not stop it. But then when he asked him to make them short reads in the Oklahoma game, he hasn't developed that intermediate game yet. It's like Anthony Richardson, but a higher completion percentage and a better deep ball than AR. But I'm not going on an Alabama tangent, but I like that play for 11-1 to win the national championship. I think they're serious. I think they play LSU for the SEC championship. I don't got Georgia or Texas playing for it this year, and that just.
When you look at the schedule, I mean, obviously start at the horseshoe. That's nothing to squirm about, and then they have Then they do at the Swamp, and then Oklahoma in the Red River rival. Really don't know what Oklahoma is going to be there. A lot of moving parts in the offense and everything. Then you have Vandy right before you have Georgia. Then you have Arkansas. And Arkansas has been a train wreck. God only knows if Pittman is even going to be the coach at this point before you finish out the season at Texas A&M. But I'm going to let you go in. We've already talked an hour and a half. Appreciate you coming on. We'll probably talk another hour about college football. Look forward to having you on during the NFL season, talking a little NFL. But I'm going to let you shout out all your socials again. I'll let you be on your merry way, my friend.
So, all 22 Dynasty Fantasy Football Show, like he said at the top of the program, every Friday, just not this Friday, 10 o'clock Eastern. We'll be talking college ball. We'll be making NFL picks against the line, which most of you love because everybody loves football. That's got us set. And we'll be going over your dynasty picks, your fantasy picks, whatever it is you got questions. But you got to subscribe to my channel. I'm like E here. I've only got 147 subscribers. I'm trying to grow my network with that. I'm on X at JustinPaulSports, but no S because it won't fit. And every day on my YouTube channel, almost every day, I'll post, a free play. I've been doing CFL, UFL, NFL, and college football. And one last thing, for some of you that don't know this, I've been actually in touch with one of the higher ups at the UFL. I sent a direct message to them about moving to Birmingham Stallions, and I gave him the idea. Do you remember me telling you about, or I told you or XFL Jim about starting the season the week of the bye week before the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
And he seemed to really respond to that feedback because I just can't see it. Maybe your viewers will know if there's no football on that week. You want to watch a boring ass skills competition, or do you want to watch regular season college hoops or regular season NBA? Or if they just programmed it correctly and hyped up, hey, we got football this week. And it counts and it matters. And then you do it on Super Bowl Saturday. You're 2 weeks in. People are already vested because they're seeing live games that you can bet on, you can watch. They're just as good as NFL players. You just got slightly better players. Ocho Cinco said, when I went to the CFL, I got humbled because there just wasn't enough opportunity for these players. They were good enough to compete in the league. So,
yeah. Hit the nail on the head there. Make sure to give this man a follow. Appreciate you coming on. We'll be back next week with Sterling from Silver Star Sparks, finishing off our previews, talking the AFC South. Best of luck in your futures, and we'll talk soon, my friend.
Roll Tide.